Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
I'm doing good, Jeremy. Been enjoying fall weather. I'm very thankful. American football, college is back. Getting watch the local university and the conference. Play ball and NBA will be back in a month or two. So excited to see my reigning champion team take the court again, and then good games, good TV, and yeah. How about you, man? What you been?
Yeah, well, over here, the weather is finally changing from blasting hot to raining. As we were saying before the show went live, last week during the show, I was sweating. Right, I can't really have the fan on while I do the podcast. This week, I'm wearing a hoodie. It's freezing. So I can't win. The wrestling is big. Honestly, for people that are listening, you know that this year I've gotten back into wrestling. It's different from when I used to watch it. I stopped watching it in 2005, and when I watched it, like basically every Raw and SmackDown, every main event of those Raw and SmackDowns, you'd have Stone Cold versus The Undertaker or The Rock versus Kurt Angle. You know, Triple H versus Chris Jericho. Now, I don't know who half of these people are. Obviously, I haven't watched in 20 years, but it feels like I'm watching the same matches every week. You know, every single Raw, there's a guy called Penta who fights someone on the Judgment Day or the New Day, and then the next week it's the same thing. And most of these, by the way, if I went to a SmackDown or Raw now, I'd be very angry because most of these events don't even end with a match; they end with a promo. So I would be livid, right? you know, um, I've been wanting to go to one. The ticket prices these days, even if you adjust for inflation, is absolutely appalling. When I was a kid, I went to two pay-per-views, WWF pay-per-views. That's what it was at the time, WWF. And back then, at a pay-per-view, I think the ticket was £150. Now you're looking at a grand. But yeah, outside of wrestling,
Good grief.
yeah, maybe I'm cheap, but I think sports tickets shouldn't cost that much.
I mean, that's 10 times as much as it used to cost. That's wild.
Yeah, absolutely stupid. And I looked at WrestleMania tickets for next year. It's upwards of 30 grand. Like, what the hell? You could buy a car for that. But outside of the wrestling stuff, it's all been good. Finished watching Severance. I may have mentioned that last week. I can't remember. Time kind of blends
Oh,
together
great
sometimes.
show.
Yeah, great show. I think that actually won an Emmy yesterday, or a couple. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if that cleared house because Severance is arguably some of the most interesting sci-fi in the past decade.
It and Andor did well.
Yeah, I can imagine Andor doing well. I'm kind of sad that it only got 2 seasons. I think
Same.
I think they could have went on for at least 5. Just I think the reason why we have limited shows, and for people tuning in, yes, this is an Xbox gaming show. We're just talking about regular stuff beforehand. Um, I think the thing that stops these shows getting more than a couple of seasons, it's the years in between seasons, right? 3 years in between Andor season 1 and 2. That stung, you know. People could say it was the pandemic. I don't blame the pandemic for that. It's partially due to the writers' strike, and honestly, I think I think these production houses they gotten too used to using these big actors, so they're having to stretch out their time between movies, other TV shows. So that's why we have to have 2 years in between Game of Thrones and all that stuff. It has absolutely nothing to do with CGI. I 100% believe that. Um, like hell, Supernatural just turned 20 years old. That had 15 seasons. So if that happened today, it would take 30 years for that entire show to air. Think about it. But anyway, back to gaming. It's been a long week. Logan, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I've been playing kind of a random mix of stuff. Like I mentioned last week how I'd gotten back into Pokemon Go randomly after a hiatus after the pandemic, and I've been playing that, really getting into that again, having a lot of fun as a casual game. And then I've been playing the expansion for Still Wakes the Deep, Siren's Rest, which is excellent. It's basically like an epilogue expansion for the main game. Won't get into spoilers, but you can tell it is clearly set after the campaign and events that transpire. And it's really, really good. Enjoying that. And been playing that, been playing some Balatro. Doom 2. I'm towards the end of beating Doom 2 and the remaster collection that, Night Dive did. Been playing through that. I finished Space Marine Remastered. Loved it. And man, it just makes me even more glad they made the second one and how good the second one was. Because like now that I've played the first one, I'm like, man, I would have been so mad if they never made a second one because of the way that ended with that, betrayal and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. I'm like, are you kidding me? After all this little scrub pulls this. And then I'm left hanging as a fan for ages until they make a sequel. They do, thankfully. It's fantastic. You and I both rave about that game.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm excited for the third one, and they're still cranking content for the second one. So finish that. Pokemon Go, Still Wakes the Deep, Doom 2. I'm about to hop into Chronos as well. So yeah, that's been on my gaming plate as of late. How about you, man? What have you been up to?
A bunch of different games. I'll get the Warzone stuff out the way. I play Warzone with one of my friends, and my God, like the amount of cheaters that still play that game is atrocious. You can the bonus about having a game like that with kill cams is that you get to see how they got you, and you have people blatantly running wall hacks, aiming at you through walls, and it's despicable. Like I don't understand how people have any enjoyment while hacking a multiplayer game. Like this, I do not understand it at all. Um, but outside of that, been playing Final Fantasy 16. Now, it's funny because I got Final Fantasy 16 as a review copy the day it came to Xbox, and I'm still playing it.
You're well past embargo, buddy. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm 100 hours in. I've just got to the point of no return. I have 2 expansions in the ending to go. So I'm guessing by this time next week I should have finished it. But what a ride. What an absolute ride. That game's been phenomenal. I understand how people on social media might be sick of me talking about it, but the way my health's been this year, I'm literally playing a game like that maybe 2 hours a day, if that. And then, some days I don't play video games, Friday, I went to the pub, which I should have said that a minute ago. I went to the pub with some of my friends. Didn't really play games that day. So, yeah, playing single-player story games when you've got other stuff going on can take some time. And here we are, 3 months later, still pushing on. But hey, for me, I'll put it like this. I'm clearly excited about this game. Clearly excited about more Final Fantasy games. So, I'm blatantly squeezing every single ounce of enjoyment out of this because, it's going to be a while till the next one. So that's been fun. I've been playing Hard Space Shipbreaker. That game is just relaxing. Floating around in zero G, tearing apart spaceships. I mean, I've played through that campaign 3 times. It's just so much fun. And a bit more cyberpunk. I do want to get to Silksong because I've talked about this on the show before. I don't really like roguelites. But with Silksong, I like the look of the gameplay that much that I think I'm just gonna give it a go anyway. Games with difficulty curves don't necessarily bother me that much, depending on the genre. So, if I'm playing a turn-based JRPG, you bet damn right I'm going to try and put that on the easiest setting because as much as I like turn-based combat, I'm terrible at it.
You don't want a blue worm.
Oh God, no! I think that's where it all originated. The blue worm from Lost Odyssey. Like the first main boss after the tutorial is the hardest boss in the game. What were they thinking? It still annoys me. And while we're talking about turn-based stuff, I bought Final Fantasy X when that came to Xbox in, I think, 2020 or 2019. And I stopped playing it because there's a part, and I don't know if you can remember this, there's a part where you beat a boss in this stadium, and then you have to walk down this kind of massive, long, grassy road. And along the way, there's random battles all over the place, but no save points. And that is one of the most frustrating parts of that game to me. So, like, it put me off from going back to it. There are rumors that Final Fantasy X is actually going to get a proper remaster. And that might have... Yeah, and if that's true, and it has, like, the quality of life improvements, because Final Fantasy X is a brutal game. It's a very brutal game. And if they can just put in a mode where I could just, like, get past that bit, or, hell, I know what the story is. I played through it 20 years ago, or whenever it came out. 24 years ago, that game came out. I would like to play through it and not worry about difficulty. Some people are really snobbish about difficulty. I don't really care. I play first-person shooters on hard. I'm going through Gears Reloaded right now, and the insane setting. That game is brutal, but I enjoy it. But when it comes to JRPGs and stuff, yeah, I just want to pop it on easy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, the grind factor, just to hop in. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Like you on shooters, I generally play on hard or expert, legendary, whatever. I generally do that if I want a true challenge or whatever, because I've played so many of those over the years. I'm well versed in them, and I enjoy the skill it takes. But JRPGs and stuff, I would definitely be more keen to do a story kind of setting or an easier setting, because I've had some games where I got to basically the final act of a JRPG, and then my character was woefully underleveled because of reasons. And then they want me to spend what would be equivalent to 10 plus hours grinding just to be able to fight a few bosses at the end. And I'm like, are you serious? So, yeah, I would totally be down for that.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned how, the end of these JRPGs can arbitrarily just massively go up in difficulty. And back to Final Fantasy X back in the day, the very end boss, you kind of fight twice, and the second to last the second to last time you fight Sin on the airship, that is unnecessarily hard. It has a move where it can take you out one hit kill, and it's like if you don't put maybe 30 hours into grinding, you're kind of screwed. And that's really off-putting. But if you play a JRPG on easy, you don't have to grind. And I mentioned grinding in Final Fantasy and stuff. In 16, it is action-based. There's no need to grind in that game at all, which I love. The difficulty's fair, and for people that want to get into it, by the way, it is on sale at the minute. I think it's 40% off if you get the version with the DLC, and the DLC packs are on sale as well. Highly recommended, but that game is not difficult at all. Some boss fights can be, but there's things you can put on, such as rings and necklaces, which can actually mix up how you play, so it'll give you an extra chance to dodge or slow down time, so you can effectively make the game easy. And I think that's something some games need to do. Elden Ring, I loved it. It's a masterpiece. I don't think that needs a difficulty mode, but I think games like that, maybe they should put in items for people that want an easier go, just an interesting way of doing it.
The Mimic Tear, kind of.
Yeah, and I got the Mimic Tear in Elden Ring, by the way, after it was nerfed, and even that helped me out. And whoever had the idea at From Software to put the Mimic Tear in the game, they are beautiful people. that Mimic Tear,
I know, a saint.
Yeah,
100%.
That Mimic Tear came in. Oh, it's so clutch. So many times I nearly failed that game. I just put it down, but Mimic Tear came in handy. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing. It's been a good week for games. And you know what? We have about 17 topics, basically all of which are good. And we have some breaking news about some upcoming games. we're going to be talking about the whole Randy Pitchford thing because it's kind of funny, considering his past transgressions, let's call it. But before we get into all that, if you're watching live, if the audio's fine, just please let me know in chat because I had to redo all my settings before the show went live again because OBS decided to update. And I choose not to update that software because it would reset everything. So, yeah. So if anything's different or if you can hear the gameplay, which shouldn't happen, just let me know and I'll fix it on the fly. Anyway, let's get into all this stuff because we have some juicy topics. You know what? We have a bunch of new games coming to Game Pass, and I'll actually go over them quickly because there's some really cool stuff here. Of course, I didn't have the webpage open. Okay, here we go. So, Hades is coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, PC, and Standard. A lot of people love Hades. I think the art style is amazing. Personally, I couldn't get into it because roguelites aren't necessarily for me. Overthrown has been added to Xbox Game Pass Standard. For the King 2 has been added to Xbox Game Pass Standard. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, by the way, Logan, we were exactly right. One Activision game a month in Game Pass.
This is such a sick joke.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not greedy, but my gosh, come on, guys.
Yeah. And this is the newer Modern Warfare 3. For people that don't know, it's separate outside of the Call of Duty launcher now, which I'm all for. Like, the Call of Duty launcher is so annoying because all of your achievements are lumped together. Just separate them. I don't need a launcher. Then we have Lara Croft and the... I'm trying to find the name here. Okay, basically...
Guardian of Light?
Yeah, Guardian of Light, I think that's the one. I've played it. A really cool game. Loved that. Wobbly Life, that's kind of this physics-based platforming game. Game of the Year, Peppa Pig is coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, PC, and Standard. I'm sure a lot of people love that, especially if you have kids. Frostpunk 2 is coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate this month. Endless Legend is coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC this month. Sworn, Xbox Ultimate, PC. Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. Now, for people that don't know, it's a spin-off set in the Deep Rock Galactic universe, but it's a lot like Vampire Survivors. So if you like Vampire Survivors, you're going to love this game. It's super action-packed.
Oh, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I think you like it. You go around, I think it actually has the auto-shoot mechanic, and you just, you upgrade your character, you pick new weapons, that type of thing. And I think Vampire Survivors kind of kicked off this, mini renaissance with a new genre, which I think is pretty cool. And I think the big one is Visions of Mana, which launched last year. Big Square Enix title, and yeah, that's coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate later this month. So, personally, that's the one I'm going to play probably the most. But hey, decent month. But yeah, the one Call of Duty game a month thing, we kind of hit the nail on the head. That's what they're doing. So, at this rate, we should have all Call of Duty games in Xbox Game Pass by the year 2056. Lovely.
Yeah.
I exaggerate, but I might be close. But hey, good games there. I think that, people are going to have fun with those. Anyway, we have a bunch of news topics. Let's get into all this stuff. My God. Sometimes I joke about, how many topics there are. I'm not. There's about 17. You know what? Let's get this one out of the way because it really annoyed me. And that's Nintendo. I love Nintendo. They basically saved gaming in the West. It's partially the reason why we're here still talking about video games on podcasts and stuff. Well, anyway, Nintendo, and this, by the way, this happened live during our podcast last week, but we couldn't really talk about it. Nintendo filed a bunch of patents for a bunch of gameplay mechanics for, I'm sure everyone loves these in certain games, and that is the ability to spawn in different characters or different creatures to help in combat or help with gameplay. So you're looking at Pokemon games. Basically any game where you can summon in monsters. You're looking at Final Fantasy. You're looking at things like, Monster Hunter Stories. Basically any game where you can call in help from a NPC player character. So you're basically calling out a lot of JRPGs, a bunch of Western games, a crap ton of indie games, and Nintendo trying to trademark and copyright gameplay mechanics has to be one of the scummiest things I've ever heard of. It's not only Nintendo that's done this, Warner Brothers Games did this with the Nemesis system back in 2014. And it's a brilliant gameplay mechanic, and no one else can use it for like 50 years or something like that. I'm pretty sure it's more like 10 years, but still, like, it's a shame. And Nintendo is doing this, and it's in a time where we have all these other monster hunting games coming out or monster collecting games, and there's a bunch coming around the corner. You have Nexomon 3, big 3D open world game. I think that's coming out next year. There's a bunch of other games, but my point is that Nintendo is trying to copyright claim basic gameplay mechanics. That's kind of messy. You don't think?
Yeah, I've got a whole lot to think about this one. Like, to me, on one hand, I get the idea of you as a company or a dev or studio, whatever, being like, hey, we created this thing. This is our turf. We have this, feature, whatever, that we think is revolutionary or we think is, like a fundamental right to our IP or whatever, and we want to protect it, and we don't want other people to come after it or try to use it, basically have success off our coattails. Like, I get it theoretically, but to me, there's a whole heck of a lot difference between that and retroactively going back and trying to patent things you did back in the 90s. Like Pokemon is like the main example. Basically, it all comes back to Pokemon. But like, if you were going to patent this, why didn't you do this when Game Freak went supernova
Yep.
and in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Pokemon was dominating everything, the height of its powers, everybody and everything was like Pokemon this, Pokemon that. Pokemon is still incredibly powerful and relevant, but it, there's a different vibe to it than it was during its heyday. And like, if you were going to do that, you should have done it then. Like, to me, this is like no takebacks, like no tagbacks, kind of, or like, I don't know, it's just retroactive history to try to do this. Like, if you're going to do it when you actually create it. Like, I still think it's a move, frankly, to patent the stuff, but if you're going to have the audacity to do that, at least have you know, the courage to do it when you create it, not 20 years later, 30 years later. Because, like, imagine if id, back in the day with Doom, Wolfenstein, all that, if they had trademarked the FPS mechanic of shooting in first person, you know how many franchises, games, other things would have never existed had they done that? It is insane. Or if they had trademarked the ability to double jump,
Oh yeah.
or fast travel in a game, or open an inventory. Like, you can get so granular and technical about this. Like, at what point are we just grasping for straws with features? Like, oh, I can pick up and read a book. That's a patented thing from this company, and so no one can ever pick up a book and look at it in a game again or something. It goes against the spirit of it to me in another way, because like gaming and all these art forms, like we we learn from those who came before, like history, and we go, okay, they made this, and I can see that, and I can take that and adapt it to my own and go forward and make something different and unique, but also, call back to that. And that's good. That's what writers do. That's what developers do. That's what, movie people do. All these things. Like, I don't know. This is just, it reeks horribly, and it's a real move, and I don't respect it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Pyro on chat mention that, World of Warcraft has the beast battle mechanic. I completely forgot about that. So Microsoft going to war with Nintendo would be hilarious. Um, this problem really.
They're one of the few companies who could.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, realistically, the only people that could take Nintendo on is Microsoft, Apple, basically. Amazon, but Amazon's not really doing much. I think it's just terrible, And the funny thing is, I've seen people defend it. I get there's super I was gonna say Super Nintendo supporters, but big Nintendo fans, right? They'll forgive Nintendo for raising prices to $80. They'll praise them for charging them $20 for upgrade packs. Advertising day one DLC for certain games months before the game comes out. And all of that, they'll still defend Nintendo over something like this. And I think that's a bit silly, right? I am clearly a Microsoft fan. I do not like a lot of the things they do. I think when they were going to originally raise the price to $80, I said it was stupid. Hell, I'm still against the $70 game, right? But like some of these Nintendo people, they will give them an absolute pass. And by the way, notice how the journalists, or I should say a lot of the journalists, I noticed people from Windows Central, I actually did report this. A lot of these journalists, they aren't going at Nintendo for this. Microsoft, they can, close a studio, fire people. I don't know, someone from Microsoft can fart in the wrong direction. And IGN, GameSpot, they'll all write a story on it. But Nintendo patents gameplay mechanics, and they aren't hounded. You don't have Jeff Keighley questioning them, saying, "What's this help? How does this help gamers or the industry?" None of that. Nintendo gets this magical pass no one else gets. Right? Remember
because they're
Sorry, say that again?
simultaneously Darth Vader and their childhood nostalgia. Both.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if you look at the DRM situation, right? Every time DRM's brought up, in any capacity, right? Maybe an Xbox game isn't on a disc, or a PlayStation game isn't on a disc. You have these people that they rage and say they're not going to buy the game, they hate DRM and stuff. But the second Nintendo announced those game keys, forgiven. It's completely forgiven, right? Yeah, some people did complain. However, Nintendo gets this massive pass that no one else gets, right? PlayStation doesn't get this kind of treatment. They get a lot of passes, but not to the level of Nintendo. And the thing is, I grew up on Nintendo products. I love Nintendo products. However, this is a bit... It's cheap. It doesn't benefit anyone. Like, I'm still salty over Warner Brothers doing that to the Nemesis system, right? One of the most interesting gameplay mechanics in the past 20 years, and it's all locked off. And the worst part is Warner Brothers, they aren't even bothering to use it in other games, right? They were going to use it in Wonder Woman, but that game got cancelled. But yeah, it's just shady. I don't like it. I complain about the state of the industry a lot, and it's just stuff like this. It's like, why? What do you get out of this? And does Nintendo feel threatened by Palworld, or Cassette Beasts, or Nexomon, or World of Warcraft monster battling? Like, I don't know what it is, but people need to speak up about it because, again, Nintendo gets this magical pass no one else could even dream of. Anyway, that's that. Just wanted to talk about that quickly. Oh, quickly talk about this. Now, Battlefield Battle Royale was announced, and the funny thing is, gamers do these things called signing NDAs. And I noticed that everyone was posting...
Oh, what's that?
Yeah, it's crazy. Nobody knows what an NDA is all of a sudden. And gamers are posting all of this Battle Royale footage. And, look, I've signed NDAs by EA before. Do not leak that stuff. You can get sued into oblivion. And, yeah, and by the way, people that are posting this footage, their name is smack dab right in the middle of the screen, thinking they can get away with this. Trust me, these companies do react to leaked material. Right? It doesn't matter if it's screenshots or video. If you post something early that hasn't been released, or if you've been given the go-ahead for, you get in major trouble. So don't do that. But that being said, now that it's public, I can't actually talk about it. I haven't played it because I'm kind of just done with multiplayer. I play Warzone with a friend socially. I mainly play it so we can, just talk about random stuff. and play a game at the same time. It looks like they've basically copied every gameplay mechanic from Warzone, which, in my opinion, is actually a smart move. You land, you open these crates. Each crate has an item and a weapon. Each weapon has different kind of stats. So I think there was like blues, oranges, and purples. And the circle gets smaller, but the second the circle does touch you, you're out, which I think is actually a good way to do that gameplay mechanic. Some people decide to stay in the gas in Warzone, and they try and get around you, which I don't like. But it looks like it could be fun. I just don't know how a Battle Royale is going to do that well in a premium game. Like, is it going to be a free-to-play mode? I doubt it. But we'll see what happens. I know Logan has absolutely no interest whatsoever about Battle Royale, right?
Yeah, not a flying flip. Yeah.
But hey, if people want to try it, I think there's going to be a public test very soon because the game comes out, early next month. So, yeah, they're running out of time. Hopefully, look, I want Battlefield to do well because that'll push Call of Duty to do better, go back and forth and all that stuff. But, I need them to show me a good campaign because from the story trailer or the universe trailer I saw, and I'm hoping I'm interpreting this incorrectly, that it looks like they are just recycling multiplayer maps and purposing them as campaign levels. And I don't like it when companies do that. I think it's lazy. I think it doesn't make the world interesting. Like, if you play a first-person shooter, it's structured. It's linear. But if you take open Battlefield maps and just plant story elements in them, I don't think it works. I think it's boring. It's lazy. Hell, we had war stories with previous Battlefield games, and they are the worst campaigns ever. And if a developer calls that a campaign, no, not on my watch. That's not a campaign. It's stupid. It was lazy. But hey, I hope EA delivers because that just means more first-person shooter campaigns for me. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? I was saying at the beginning of the show, it's very positive this week. Well, this next bit isn't because I've got another rant. I complain on a weekly basis about Splinter Cell. And, we were shown a remake or, a teaser for a remake about, 4 years ago? 3 years ago? And Splinter Cell fans have just been waiting. We've just been waiting. Nothing's happened. We get DLC for other games that are based on Splinter Cell. We have skins for other games. We have a new anime coming out by Netflix that's set in the Splinter Cell universe. And it looks like it could be pretty good. But if you look at all the comments on the Splinter Cell anime trailer, or animated show, it's all people questioning where's the remake. Because for people that are listening, I'm pretty sure you may have played the original, if you've been a long-time Xbox fan or whatever. That first Splinter Cell game, it's not a big game. It's linear. You have small, compact levels with lots of different ways to get through levels. But it's not like a huge open world. So, what's exactly taken them 4 years to remake this small game? I just find that very suspicious. Do I come off as a salty Splinter Cell fan? Maybe. But let's be honest, I complain about this crap every week. I feel that, personally, look, I've broke some, a pretty decent amount of, not Splinter Cell, but Ubisoft news, either on here or on Twitter. And let me tell you, I can't find out anything about Splinter Cell behind the scenes. Nothing. Zip. Right? Assassin's Creed, yes. But Splinter Cell? Nothing. Nothing. And that's worrying. I can't find out anything. There's been some talk that it's coming out at some point in the future after a Splinter Cell Blacklist remaster. But at this rate, I don't even believe that's happening. So, yes, I'm going to continue to look into it. But, yeah, I'm salty because 12 years. 12 years since we had the last Splinter Cell game. And, look, it's one of my favorite franchises. If you're a Mass Effect fan, at least you know there's another game coming. N7 Day is in 2 months. We're going to probably get some concept art or something. We know it exists. But with Splinter Cell, we have concept art from 4 years ago, and that's it. Logan, I know you were looking forward to it too. Like, what's your take on the whole situation? Because the anime is coming out, it looks cool, but the fan base is kind of just tired at this point.
Yeah, I'm glad the show looks cool. Like I definitely want to watch that. And I mean, I guess it's nice that he gets cameos and all this other stuff, but at a certain point it's like, come on. Like it's been over a decade since a true Splinter Cell experience. And this is a remake of the first one. If it was a 1-to-1 remake, just simple as that, it shouldn't take that long to do it with modern tech and abilities and staff sizes and all that other stuff. If they're going for like a full blown like massive remake where they like fundamentally change a bunch and make it way bigger, like a Final Fantasy VII type remake or like a Resident Evil 2 remake or something like that, then okay, I get it. That does take longer, but still, like there should be at least something, some murmurs, whispers, anything. The fact that it's been radio silence basically is not encouraging, especially when the first looks at that Prince of Persia remake looked
Yeah.
worse than the original Xbox version itself, which was a massive red flag. And they've rebooted that sucker so many times it's ridiculous at this point, that one project alone. So I don't know. It's like I'm encouraged by the fact that we're getting Splinter Cell stuff at all, but the radio silence on the game is concerning.
Yeah. You mentioned the Prince of Persia thing. I completely forgot about that. Because when they showed that off, it looked awful. It
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 was hideous.
yeah, it
It
was,
was like N64, not even OG Xbox. It was bad.
yeah. I think, originally that was uh Ubisoft Malaysia, I think, or got moved to like you said, that game has been rebooted like 4 times. And then we got a teaser last year that was just, them saying, "Oh, it's coming," it's been rebooted again. Um, but yeah, look, we're going to be talking about more Ubisoft stuff in a bit when it comes to Assassin's Creed. But I just, you know what? Since we talked about Ubisoft, we might as well talk about the Ubisoft thing now, because the big elephant in the room that kind of just went live today. Um, excuse me for a moment. By the way, if people wonder why I go like kind of awkward and silent for a couple of seconds, because I'm having to do timestamps manually, which is fun. But let's talk about the Splinter Cell stuff, because Assassin's Creed stuff. Oh my
We
god.
can talk more Splinter Cell if you want.
Yeah. Oh my god. I'm all over the place today. The thing is about Splinter Cell, like I know I say, oh, do I sound salty and whatnot, but you know, like if you're a Rayman fan, right? Last week you got some awesome news. It looks like there's actually stuff coming. But if you're a Splinter Cell fan, like you know nothing's coming, right? An animated show doesn't really prove anything. Ubisoft, they have this massive partnership with Netflix. Netflix is probably going to make, a Far Cry animated show, and that won't have anything to do with a video game. And at least you're going to get Far Cry video games. Watch Dogs. I think that was originally going to get an anime at one point, but it got cancelled. But Splinter Cell fans are just left in the dirt, man. And I just want more. And it doesn't help the fact that Ubisoft delisted a bunch of them from Xbox Live. Like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, that was a move.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah, I didn't like that.
yeah, I think the only old Splinter Cell game you could play on Xbox, I might be wrong. I think it's Chaos Theory. But like, who knows how long that's going to be online for? Did they remove them because they're doing a HD collection or 4K collection? We just don't know. I feel like Ubisoft, they are just in an Assassin's Creed only studio now, which is worrying. But speaking of Assassin's Creed, we're going to talk about this later in the show, but we'll talk about it now because I just checked. We have a bunch of big topics left. Assassin's Creed 4, the remake. It's been rumored for a while. I want to go back 6 months, maybe a year. I've been talking about it. How, like, it's going to be basically the same game we used to love, but with like a bunch of gameplay mechanics that are new, like the crouch function, right? If you go play an old Assassin's Creed game right now, you instinctively want to crouch to sneak around because that's how you sneak. But in that game, you just walked around, like kind of just hit against walls. So like I knew about the crouch feature coming into the new game. I knew about stuff like that. However, a bunch of details just leaked today, and some people are really concerned. Some people are really excited, and I think this is going to be another title that actually splits the player base. So I'll go down all these features quickly, and then we'll talk about it. So the remake completely removes the modern day elements and replaces them with more content from Edward's pirate journey. So basically, cut content. The gameplay will shift closer to the RPG style of the newer Assassin's Creed games. Loot and gear stats. Edward has both loot and gear stats. There's a new inventory system. The original game didn't really have that. Combat is leaning towards the RPG style rather than the choreographed combat from the original. The game has no loading screens when you move from the ship to land, because basically when you're ported to the big cities or towns in the original, you would get a loading screen, but not in the big open world. Next up, you have the map is not bigger, but the islands are filled with more activities and side content to do. This post goes on about how there's more cut content about side characters. It's not on the big budget remake level of Resident Evil 2 or Silent Hill 2, but it's more of a faithful reimagining. Next up, Ubisoft uses the new Anvil pipeline engine, same as Assassin's Creed Shadows. The release window, which I originally thought was going to be November this year, and I said it was pushed to next year. The release target window is early 2026, likely March, though some sources think it could slip to late 2026. They're also using some assets from Skull and Bones. So I assume that's going to be the water engine that's in that game. So, yeah, this has kind of split people up a bit because you have fans that love the original combat and love the less RPG-centric games, but now you also have the RPG fans that are excited about this because they love the RPG elements, such as the inventory systems and all that stuff. The game isn't going to have questing like the RPGs, but basically all of the gameplay systems. So I think it's actually going to split the player base a little bit because like Assassin's Creed 4 is one of Ubisoft's best-selling games ever. It's a phenomenal game. But like the old Assassin's Creed games were, I don't want to call static, but like you went to a point, hit a target, did a mission, story, so on and so forth. But in the RPG games, there's lots of, I want to call it filler. So it looks like they're going to be removing the filler element from the RPG games, but just putting in the mechanics. Now, personally, I like the choreographed fighting from the originals as opposed to the RPG ones. But we'll have to wait and see. Like, Logan, what's your take? Because the original game is amazing. In my opinion, they only need to put in crouch, a few gameplay mechanics, maybe more stealth elements. But what's your thought on them putting the RPG gameplay mechanics from the new games in the old game?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of like what you were saying, torn on this because on one hand, I would have been thrilled with just a 1-to-1 remake.
Yeah.
Like for modern consoles because I loved Black Flag. It is like I know it's Assassin's Creed, but honestly, like I think of it as like the best pirate game ever made.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, it's like pirate simulator to me more than it is an Assassin's Creed game. It's like a pirate game that happens to be set in the universe of Assassin's Creed. Like that's kind of how I always thought of it. But the fact that they're adding more content for Conway's life and during that era is great news to me cuz you know the modern day back and forth, like modern day, past, modern day, all that, it started getting so convoluted and crazy, at one point
Yeah.
that I kind of like the idea of it just being set, more of it in that timeline. So that to me is great news. The RPG thing, I'm a little iffy on. Like, I could see some positives, but I could also see some drawbacks. Like, I really enjoyed the gameplay of the original one, frankly. And I am. Maybe this makes me sound like old man yells at cloud, but I kind of just liked the vibe of the older Assassin's Creeds more than the modern ones. Like, 1, 2, Brotherhood, 4, stuff like that, compared to like Valhalla or you know, some of the other ones. So it remains to be seen. I'll definitely play it and get it because I loved 4 that much. But I don't know. Like, I could see it. I think at worst it will be an okay game
Yeah.
or a good. Like, it's like, yeah, I'd recommend it. It was fun. But I think potentially it could be awesome. So it's not like a concerned as in a just I'm not sure how much they're gonna hit the mark they're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, Assassin's Creed 4, honestly, like, other than some of the visuals and some of the gameplay, it's still a bloody amazing game. Like, when you use the diving bell, like, that's one of the few instances where I think, an underwater scene or level actually makes sense. It's actually fun to do that stuff. And it still looks great underwater, but I'd be lying to say, like, I'm not excited about it. I love Assassin's Creed 4. I know I bring up the crouch thing every single time I bring up this game. But really, it is weird to play a stealth game and not being able to crouch in the modern day.
Yeah, it seems like fundamental right almost for a stealth game to be able to crouch or in a an FPS being able to zoom in on a
Yeah,
scope or something. It kind of seems like it should just be there.
yeah. I mean, look, I'll mention a different mechanic from a different game as an example. Like, we've all played first-person shooters before. Do you know when you played the campaign for Black Hawk Down, the aim down sight isn't a hold; it's a toggle. So if you want to,
Interesting.
yeah, so if you want to aim down sight, you press the left trigger. But if you want to pull away from that sight, you have to press it again. It's such an unusual mechanic that we aren't used to in a first-person shooter that it feels alien. So when you play an old Assassin's Creed game, it feels alien when you can't crouch. Um, but like, look, if it removes the filler from the newer ones, such as like the tons of RPG elements and loot, like, look, I personally think, and I might be getting hate for this, right? I think loot, an emphasis on loot, actually takes away from an RPG, right? Like, loot is a, what's the term? Progression mechanic. I don't think it works, right? Shocker, Jamie's about to bring up Mass Effect, but if you play Mass Effect, there's no loot in that game. Yeah, you get different guns with different specs, but in the second game and third game, they completely removed that mechanic, and the progression of those games is the story. But in a lot of newer games, they use loot as a progression mechanic. So it's like Destiny,
The
right?
Borderlands
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah, it's like Borderlands, like Destiny, Destiny has some of the best first-person shooter combat of all time. It is crisp, it's satisfying, but what do you do in that game, really? You play on hard difficulty modes to get new gear. Why? So you could play on higher difficulty modes. Why? To get more gear. It's like this weird endless loop, and it's one of the reasons why whenever I see the term loot and stat mechanics, it actually puts me off a little bit. So, like, in Assassin's Creed, Odyssey, Origins, Valhalla, like, I tried to not pay attention to that crap, right? I'd pick an armor that would look cool, and I'd pretty much stick with it, which would explain why I got my behind handed to us all the time, because I choose looks over function in those games. Um, but yeah, I just want them to make a really good game because Assassin's Creed 4, it deserves, like, every bit of praise it gets. And like you said, a lot of people don't even look at it as an Assassin's Creed game. They look at it as the best pirate game of all time. Like, I used to spend hours just playing that game, sailing around, maybe hunting whales, maybe just going after the legendary ships, and it was just genuinely fun. So, hey, I'm looking forward to it. We're obviously going to talk about it near the time. And look, if they are using tech from Skull and Bones, that game gets a lot of crap. But if it's the ocean mechanics and the way the water looks, if that's the mechanic they're using from that game, I'm all for it. Because that's the best thing about Skull and Bones. The way it looks and the way the ships handle on the ocean. But hey, we'll talk about that soon. I'd be shocked if that isn't announced by the Jeff Keighley Game Awards. Like, if you're coming out with a new Assassin's Creed game by, let's say, March, you kind of have to announce it in the next few months. So we'll see what happens. And by the way, Ubisoft didn't even have a game showcase this year. So we'll see what happens. You know what? Let's talk about this one because this is going to be juicy. So Borderlands 4, it came out, and by the way, people love Borderlands 4. It's had excellent reviews across the board. Fans like it. People are saying that the gunplay is incredible. The story's really good. And it's not like Borderlands 3 where the antagonists were these Instagram people. So people are loving it, right? So what exactly is there to talk about when it comes to Borderlands outside people loving it? Randy Pitchford has a tendency to put his foot in his mouth almost every day. And, you know, if you go listen to Boom's show earlier today, like Umbra, he listed everything that Randy Pitchford has done wrong over the years, you know. The apparent alleged... yeah, I'm going to name some of them off, but the apparent alleged embezzlement of 12 million bonus funds or something like that. Battleborn failed, yet he kept on saying that it has nothing to do with the fact it's like Overwatch. Aliens, Colonial Marines, we were bait and switched to hell with that game. We were promised interesting AI. It's going to look exactly like the movie and it's going to feel like a horror game. No, that stuff wasn't there. Duke Nukem Forever failed and he blamed people. Let's see. He hyped up the Borderlands movie, claiming that was going to be the best thing ever and it's authentic to Borderlands. And the second that first trailer dropped for the movie, everyone knew what slop it was going to be. Right? So, like, he has this habit, and it happens quite often. But it's just like Randy Pitchford has this habit of just like releasing a product or something, and rather than doing what other developers do, because by the way, while the game's getting all this praise, there's one issue, mainly the PC performance, and there is a memory leak on the console versions. And rather than doing what other developers do, going out there, putting out a tweet saying, hey, look, we heard about the issues, we're going to work on a patch, right? Konami gets a lot of crap. Do you know what they did the second people complained about performance issues in Metal Gear Solid Delta? They put out a tweet saying, we're going to patch it. And what did they do a week later? The patch came out, right? But you look at Randy Pitchford, he didn't say this. He didn't put out a tweet saying, hey, look, my bad, we'll fix it. No. He clearly lost his marbles, right? Clearly couldn't take any criticism whatsoever. And he started talking about like how you wouldn't use a leaf blower to power a monster truck. It's all about the software, not the hardware. You shouldn't be playing a premium game on something that isn't a premium device. And I'm just like, dude, your game comes out on the Switch 2 next month, right? How's it going to perform on that? People with super mega rig PCs can't get this to run at 60 frames per second locks, right? You don't have an FOV slider on console. I don't know if the PC version has it or not, but like, you don't have an FOV slider when almost all first-person shooters have an FOV slider. You can't turn off motion blur. By the way, that's the reason I haven't bought it yet, is because you can't turn off motion blur. I hate with a vengeance. I detest motion blur. You can't turn it off. Apparently that stuff's coming, but I feel sorry for the development team, really, because they have to go online and see him just talk about this nonsense. He's blaming people. It's like, this is a reason why some people just boycott games altogether, because the way the developer handles a public situation, right? These people, these studios have PR teams, whole teams of people dedicated to how you should talk online, how you should act. Clearly didn't pay attention to any of this stuff. And it's like, Randy Pitchford, just put the phone down. Put it down, right? Nobody's needing you to tweet. Just go on the Gearbox Twitter account, put out a still image with a bunch of text on it saying, "We apologize, a patch is coming." It's some of the most unprofessional behavior I've seen from a developer basically ever. Without going into the toxic side of things, which we've seen this past week, but like Randy Pitchford clearly doesn't know what the hell's going on. Clearly can't take criticism, and it's like it's 2025, man. And yes, we always hear about Unreal Engine 5 not performing well. Like, just optimize your bloody games, right? Take an extra month, take an extra week. That's hundreds of man hours, and just sort the game out. But he couldn't do that. He just had to whine and whine on Twitter. And I actually posted a video on Twitter last night of all of his posts, right? It was literally like 16 replies to his post, just him complaining about how, maybe you should code your own engine. It's like, you are using Unreal Engine 3. Sorry, you are using Unreal Engine 5. Why didn't you make your own engine? Like, it's a stupid situation where it could have been avoided. And it's like, we all complain about games that are broken, that don't perform well at launch. And this is just another issue with another game but this time we're told we're in the wrong. Where almost every other developer, they come out and say they're going to fix it. Logan, what's your take? Because it's Randy Pitchford putting his foot in his mouth again. It's to be expected, but it was so embarrassing.
Yeah, it was cringe for sure. He's basically become one of those characters like in a play or an ongoing series or something to where you just know something's gonna go on when they show up, and it's been like that. So it's a train wreck that people just keep watching. It's just, I mean, it is what it is. It's not just him. There has been a lot in the last week where him and other developers, for various reasons, we'll put it that way, are just putting their foot in their mouth by saying things at ill-advised times, or it just comes back to the like the quote like your mom has said, if you don't have something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like, if people just followed that, we would be doing much better, and there would be a lot less turmoil and people suddenly looking for other career opportunities or other things if people would just do that. But, whether it's about blaming the customer for your game sucking on performance and not working, or like basically calling them broke, or saying you should get a second job to get this, or it's like, well, you know what? If you know so much, why don't you build your own engine, huh? How about that? You see how that sounds? That doesn't sound like hey, I really want to support this company's products and buy their IP and engage with this stuff if they're going to treat the common person this way. And then, other devs and various things are bringing attention to their studios or their publishers, their platforms, whatever, negative attention, the red shining light that is, it's like the flare in Jurassic Park. The T-Rex sees it, the T-Rex goes after the flare. It's like, stop lighting these flares. Like, not all attention is good attention. So, it just, I don't know. It is what it is, but I just think people chill. Just chill.
Yeah.
Life will be good. Just chill.
Yeah. Before we continue with the topic, we're about an hour into the show. If you're enjoying it, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Believe it or not, the likes do actually help with the algorithm, and I hate doing this because I'm from the northeast of England. I find everything cringe, and I find doing this cringe. However, I have to ask anyway. So if you're enjoying the show, just like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the show out and, the channel as well. Super chats are appreciated. It helps the channel go forward, and I've got a bunch of stuff planned. But if you want to support the channel that way, it's greatly appreciated. Back to the whole Randy Pitchford thing. Do you know what's awful, right? you'll go online and you see people talk about this term AAA slop, right? A lot of people now, they will look at AAA games and call it slop, right? Because games launch broken, the performance is terrible, like the fact that we all run an x86 architecture, yet the performance can just be so wildly different between, different devices. Like, look, even though the launch Xbox Series X is technically more powerful than the PlayStation 5, they're both basically the same piece of hardware, right? We shouldn't have like vastly different performances on these different consoles, but for some reason we do. Like we've seen developers come out in the past and just completely apologize, admit, and like look at Cyberpunk, right? Remember Cyberpunk when that came out, and people complaining about performance. People were complaining that all these bugs and stuff. Do you know what CD Projekt Red did? They didn't just go out on social media and just put out a still image with text on. They did do that, but they also put out a video publicly apologizing for the state of the game. Do you know what they did? All those developers, hundreds of developers, put their heads down, worked on patches, worked on updates, worked on the next gen upgrade, and they absolutely fixed the game. Right? Like I'm playing the game at, I don't know, it's pretty close to 4K if it's not 4K. It's 60 frames per second, flawless, right? Cyberpunk 2077 for me has been flawless. Not a single bug, no performance dips at all, right? And they apologize. They have goodwill now, right? CD Projekt Red have goodwill again because they fixed the game. They added tons of features since launch, which they didn't have to. And they're still putting out updates for a 5-year-old single-player game. Nobody else would do that. Yeah, you have Randy Pitchford. Like, look, Borderlands 4 is going to be one of the best-selling games of this year. It really is. However, you can't accept that, just a little bit of criticism over performance. Where everyone listening right now, they know that Unreal Engine 5, it looks great. But, man, the performance on everything just tanks for some reason. Like, Unreal Engine 5, it's exciting. The game's going to look good. But let's be honest, we know the performance is going to be terrible at some point. For the most part, like, there are some games that perform really well, but some just don't. I'm sure the game will get fixed in no time. I'm sure this time next month, we'll all be looking back at it and laughing, but people are just sick of games launching in weird states. Like, if you make a game for years and you have all this Q&A, you have testers, and you have people that are just like, are people behind the scenes just saying the game's okay? Are they not testing every device? Because I saw a clip today that was, it just said console version, but it was like an end game area where the performance was just tanking because there was some stuff happening on screen. There were vehicles flying around, there was some aliens and stuff, but the performance was awful. Like, it was like sub 30 frames when it's meant to be a 60 frames per second game. But it's just disappointing, But again, we shouldn't expect the best from Randy Pitchford. By the way, for people that don't know, he also invented the USB stick. Don't believe me? Google Randy Pitchford USB stick. I had to do that.
Rickroll.
Yeah. Can't help myself sometimes. But yeah, hopefully that gets fixed. And by the way, I'm looking forward to Borderlands 4. I'm really looking forward to it. I thought the gameplay in 3 was phenomenal, but the cringy antagonists just I didn't like. But with this one, it looks great. But like I said, motion blur, I just don't like motion blur in video games. It's a really off-putting to me. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly, and that's Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, the thing about Grand Theft Auto 6 is half of the industry basically stops the second anything Grand Theft Auto comes up, because remember for the first half of this year, no developers were putting out release dates. We just heard, summer 2025 or just 2025. And a couple of months ago, when that game got officially delayed to May next year, what happened the next day? All these developers start putting out release dates. So like you can expect May at the minute to be basically empty. You're gonna have one game come out. However, it kind of came out today that it might be getting pushed to late 2026, which I know is going to be very disappointing to a lot of people. But I think that, it's not the worst news, because if it does have all that interesting water mechanics, which we were talking about next week with the snow, I was going to say snowboarding, but the surf and the tsunami type thing, like if it does have all that, and it's a really ambitious story, and if it is true that the story is 70 hours long, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it, because as salty as I've ever been in the past when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 5 not getting expansions, single-player expansions, I'm willing to give this the benefit of the doubt, because if any of it's true, it'll be worth it. For me personally, like, look, if that game comes out next October, right? Can you imagine what holiday season's going to look like next year for video game releases, where October's normally stacked beyond belief? Like, September's a great month for video games. Next month, it's even better, right? I think if this game comes out next October, you're going to have one of the most barren holiday periods known to man, because everyone is going to try and get their games out in August. Well, let's call it July to September. Because other than that, like, developers are terrified of Grand Theft Auto. And I'm not necessarily in that boat. I'm going to finish Grand Theft Auto in about maybe a week, maybe two, and I'm going to move on to something else. But for me, that's just me. I know a lot of people are going to be playing Grand Theft Auto online. I've talked about my addiction with that mode before. Never again. Logan, what's your take on it? And by the way, do you have any intention of playing Grand Theft Auto Online 2?
Not at all on that. Like online games, there are a few I'll play, but for the most part, I'll play games either solo or with a squad of friends I know. Like in general, like online big experiences like that are not my cup of tea. But I'm looking forward to GTA 6. I think it'll be fun. But the idea of it getting bumped into Holiday 26, man, that would royally hose a bunch of game plans for other developers. And you think they were irritated this year by basically being, held up schedule wise by not knowing when the boogeyman was going to show up, and like basically like Silk Song had that to a lesser effect. Like you saw the numbers it was putting up and everything, and like that's a small team and small studio, and it still put up big numbers and crash things and everything. Like that's big, but Grand Theft Auto 6 is like on a whole different even plane of existence from that. So it's just, I don't know, it just depends on how much of a troll 2K wants to be with this.
Yeah. I think ideally, maybe I'm just being selfish with this. I think them aiming for the holiday, they shouldn't do that. I think if they have to move out of May, I think the perfect time for Grand Theft Auto would actually be July, because you have the early summer games out and the holiday is still free to have whatever out. Obviously, it's not up to 2K or Take-Two to think, let's be concerned about all these other developers. But there's I feel that if Grand Theft Auto comes out next October, it's going to take all the attention away from basically everything else, and we're going to have a weirdly stacked summer. It's just going to be weird. I just want to put it out there. But hey, with Rockstar's financials coming up, we might be hearing about this delay or apparent delay by December. So we'll see what's going to happen. I just think that looking at the industry and looking how many developers are just terrified of release dates when it comes to that game, there's a lot of gamers out there that aren't even interested in Grand Theft Auto. There's a lot of people that want to buy more than one game. By the way, whenever a game gets delayed to next year, I get one particular reply that I always laugh at, and it's that, why are they releasing next year? That's when Grand Theft Auto comes out. So out of a year where there's
Is it?
Yeah, so that's why out of a year when there's 365 days, can't think today, in a year, we have to just be concerned about one game. I can't think like that. Like, what the hell? Like one game. I know that there are some people that they only play 1 or 2 games a year, but my God, do you know how bored I would be if I had to do that? Right? like, no, I don't want to live like that. 1 game a year, 2 games a year. No, like, call me a narcissist or something, but like, I need to play all the games now. Right? I just think it's weird. But yeah, hopefully Grand Theft Auto comes out in May. We'll see what happens. I will
That
say,
to me seems the perfect time because school's getting out late May
yeah.
or graduation, whatever. Everybody's, certain age groups are, out for summer. It feels like a blockbuster type time frame for a game of that magnitude to drop. So that May to June slot to me.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like you said, like May, like if they stick to that date, bloody perfect. Um, for the past year, I've been saying I think that thing is going to crack 25 million copies in a week. I think it's going to
Hmm.
be like closer to 30, maybe more. Like when Silksong came out, Xbox Live and every other store crashed. Right. So what's Grand Theft Auto going to do to these stores? Nothing good. you know so these people need to prepare. Like, I put this, my local supermarket does not sell physical games, but every time there's anything Grand Theft Auto related, they'll sell it. So like, even the trilogy that came out a while back, they sold it. Red Dead Redemption, it's a Rockstar game, they'll sell it. But yeah. And the thing is, like, I whine about Rockstar and how they don't do single player content. Like, I hope with this new game they'll maybe do it, because, like, look, outside of the base game, they're not going to get any money from me until Grand Theft Auto 7, which will come out in 2042. But we'll see. You know what? We had some very bloody good news this past week, and that is Final Fantasy related. So, if you go back multiple years on this channel, you know that actually, if you go back to 2019, right, the ancient year of 2019, I put out a video saying, you know, will Final Fantasy VII come to Xbox? Because I believed it was coming to Xbox at that point, because it was actually listed on a UK video game website, a legit one, for Xbox as well. It had the Xbox Game Art and everything. So, like, I was adamant that was going to happen, even if it was a year after launch. I got a lot of crap for it. I got a lot of crap on Twitter ever since. Whenever I talk about Final Fantasy, Logan would always reply with the moth gif, because it is like moth to a flame. If I ever posted about Final Fantasy VII needing to come to Xbox, the replies would be hilarious. And here we are, a couple of years later, and by the way, in that past few years, we've went all over the place. We thought that the games would never come to Xbox. We thought that the games would come to Xbox maybe a year or two after the trilogy's done. We said that maybe they'd come 1 or 2 years after Rebirth would come. And, we've kind of gone back and forth. And you go back to the Summer Showcase by Microsoft, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate was there. Everyone was hyped. There's reactions online. And we were actually surprised that, we don't have to wait till the end of the generation, basically. But ever since that announcement, I've been asked multiple times, we don't know if Rebirth's coming. Can you promise me Rebirth is coming? And I've always thought, like, why would you think that? Like, wouldn't you think that, if we get in Game 1, we're obviously going to get Game 2 and 3. People just wanted the confirmation. And weeks before TGS, the other day, after the Nintendo showcase, Square Enix just puts out a public post saying, hey, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate is coming to Xbox and Switch January 2026. And also, Rebirth and Part 3 is coming to Xbox and Switch as well. That actually surprised me, because that seems like something you would say for Tokyo Game Show. So now we know. After all this time, the whole trilogy has come to Xbox. And like I've said before, it's the most requested game on Xbox as a platform ever. So people can say, hey, it's taken 5 years. I bloody don't care. You know, myself and a lot of other people have been wanting this to happen forever. And this, it continues to get even better as well, right? Because I have gave Square Enix flack for years, right? I've made fun of them. I've basically said a lot of things I shouldn't have said because I'm from the northeast of England. I can swear a lot. Um, but Square Enix surprised me because of the price. It's going to be $39.99. And if you pre-order it, you also get the original version of I was going to say Assassin's Creed there. You get the original version of Final Fantasy VII, which is still brilliant. And you can also get a collector's edition, or should I say a digital deluxe edition, where it comes with like a digital art book type thing. But I'm actually shocked. So we have this game by Square Enix coming years later, reasonably priced. It comes with a different version of the game, and if you actually pre-order it, you get the PC version of the original as well. And I think Square Enix, I have to commend them for it. Totally unexpected, because I thought they were going to launch it at $70. Actually shocked. So yeah, the game's coming finally, and it's not overly priced. Logan, what's your take? Because we've talked about this stuff for years, and it's finally happening.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. It feels like it's been 84 years, like the Titanic meme. I mean, it's been brutal wait, but I'm so happy. Final Fantasy VII is one of the most inspirational, powerful RPGs ever made, games ever made, stories, characters. To finally get the ultimate version of it and the whole trilogy coming to Xbox is a godsend. I'm so glad, and I was frankly surprised that they announced it, like you said in a post, that 2 and 3 are coming to Xbox and Switch same time. They're both coming. Everybody's getting the whole experience. No shenanigans or funny business. No exclusivity deals mentioned or hinted at. So I'm thrilled everybody finally gets to be on the same playing field for that. And it feels like it took a long time, but it feels like Square finally listened to feedback. And finally, after a lot of verbal sparring over the years, they're like, you know what? Maybe we should actually make nice with this community since they're so passionate and about their platform and do some consumer friendly stuff because we had brought up when they launched the difference between how they and basically Kojima Productions handled the launch of a game that had been absent from a platform for years and then how they launched it with pricing and stuff like that and the difference in sales and reception. Like I honestly thought it was a egregiously priced. I'll just say that. Final Fantasy 16 when it first launched on Xbox because it was years late
Yeah.
and it they expect you to just jump in and get it and be just like everything's fine and dandy, but like yeah, I'm excited for it and I want it and I bought it on sale. Like I waited, spoiler alert, till it hit a sweet spot that I felt good about and I bought it with the DLC. So I have everything. I'm going to play it. I'm excited. But it felt a, aggressive to try to peddle the 70 or 80 price point on a game that's years late when everybody else has already experienced this and then compared that to Death Stranding, which they launched on sale director's cut for like $20. And I'm like, dude, I already have the collector's edition on PlayStation, but for Xbox to get everything plus the director's cut content and everything for $20 at launch, heck yeah, I'll double it. I'll pick that up and I'll jump in, and I'm loving it. It's great. So it seems like maybe they learned from that as well by dropping the price for 7 be more reasonably priced for a late game showing up to the party, and it made me very happy. That's good job, Square. I'll give you a golf clap. Good job.
Yeah, before we continue with the topic, we have the first super chat of the day by Nick, the horror game fan. Thank you very much for the $9.99. He says thoughts on Hollow Knight Silk Song. I think Silk Song is fantastic. I'm currently on Act 2. I hope you guys enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the $9.99. And look, I've been looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake for ages. Clearly, I mean, how many thumbnails in the past 3 years have I had of a Final Fantasy VII character? Probably a lot. I mean, I have a complete folder on my PC right now. It's just Final Fantasy VII promo clips and promo images.
Just Cloud, a controller, and Tifa.
Yeah, like lots of Tifa, lots of Cloud, lots of Sephiroth, but I'm excited. Logan's clearly excited. And it's been really nice to see the fan base excited like this because it's a JRPG. And, there's clear excitement for JRPGs on Xbox. Just, unfortunately, we don't get a ton. But I'm sure it's going to do really well. And like Logan said, the price thing, I think I think 16 was a bit overly priced. I think with the DLC, it should have cost $49.99, at least in the UK. Maybe $59.99 in the US. But the way they priced it, I think was a bit much. It should have been $10 cheaper, basically, in the US. Now, when it comes to Silk Song, I am hilariously terrible at roguelites. However, I think the art style of Silk Song, that thing's just beautiful. That is a gorgeous looking game. So if I can get past the difficulty, I think I'll give it a go. I mean, I've got it in my download queue, but you can't really call a game like that niche if it's selling millions of copies. Like, maybe I'm out of the loop, but I think a game like that, it's no longer niche. Hell, it crashed Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Steam, Switch, all that stuff. Like, it crashed those stores, so people were willing to play this hard game. So if I can get past that, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. Logan, you haven't played Silksong yet, right?
I have not. I want to beat Hollow Knight first. And I'm on that one currently, along with some other games, obviously. But good news for everybody is that they recently nerfed some of the early bosses in Silksong that were apparently kicking everybody's tail. So it's obviously a good time to jump in after a nerf session. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The price is beautiful. Kudos to that team for the numbers that they've been putting out, which is nuts. And side note, but congratulations to Expedition 33 for hitting 4.4 million sales now. So just like example of two indie studios putting out masterclass titles at affordable prices, everybody loving them and supporting them and doing big numbers. It shows that people are tired of the hamster wheel, AAA slop, all you can eat, gross buffet. Like, people want quality and they want affordability. I know it's sometimes hard to juggle that, but if you can thread that needle, boy, you're cooking something special.
Yeah. You know what, Logan, before we continue, you are button slightly in and out. We can't hear you. It's just it's slightly crackling. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you're downloading anything or whatever. It's not that bad. Just thought I'd let you know. But yeah.
Okay, I'll see.
All right. But yeah, no, it's good to see them have success. And look, as we were saying earlier in the show, AAA slop is the term that gets thrown around all the time now, all the time, and it's because look, the most fun I've had in the past couple of years with like a lot of releases, they've been AA games or indie games, During this podcast, for people watching home, you'll notice this space game that keeps popping up, or two. One's called Chorus, it's a AA space game where you play as this starfighter pilot, and the other one, where it's first person, that is called Hard Space Shipbreaker. They are AA/indie games, and they are more interesting than a bunch of AAA games. I was going to call them Dribble A games there, but You get my point. But yeah, thank you for the 9.99, Nick. It's greatly appreciated. I will get on Silksong by next week, and who knows how many times I'll have had my behind beaten, because again, I'm terrible at those types of games. I think like the excitement over Final Fantasy, it's been really nice to see. And look, as I was saying, I give Square Enix a lot of crap. Not today. Not today. And honestly, they've earned a lot of praise. Because they announced a bunch of other stuff as well. So they also announced a Dragon Quest VII remake, which I didn't see coming. It looks really cool. It's kind of this like isometric top-down RPG. Honestly, I've seen some complaints about the way it looks. I think the game looks fantastic. I like that sort of a character-esque sort of anime style. I think it really sticks out. It works. And you know, that will be a lot of people's first Dragon Quest game on Xbox. There's also a Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. That's a mouthful. That's coming out next month. So, like, if you're an Xbox fan and you want JRPGs, there's a bunch coming over the next couple of months, which is really cool. And there's also the Final Fantasy Tactics, which is coming out, I think, in 2 weeks. That looks fantastic as well. And yeah, I played Final Fantasy Tactics on the Game Boy Advance SP. What a game. So much nostalgia. And this game actually has full-on voice acting, which I think is really cool. Maybe it's just me, but I love the fact that a lot of these older JRPG like remakes or remasters, they're getting voice acting put in. So the new...
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, I absolutely love the fact that the new Dragon Quest, again, HD 2D remakes, voice acting. I love that. A game doesn't need to have voice acting for me to like it, but I just enjoy it more, you know? Spoiler alert, I'm one of the people that prefers the dialogue system in Fallout 4. Tomatoes are thrown at me right now. I will defend that game. But yeah, voice acting and JRPGs like that, absolutely love it. So yeah, I like this like sort of mini renaissance we having with JRPGs on Xbox. And you know, for people that have played it, you know, PlayStation, PC, you know what I'm talking about. And you know, I've seen the game run on a Switch too. I saw some gameplay the other day of Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. It looks fantastic. So it's going to look great on an Xbox. I've seen the 4K Xbox pictures up close. We're getting a really good game. And also, for people listening, we were talking about difficulty earlier in the show. The funny thing about this version of the game is it actually has the enhanced combat mode from the original version, the original PC version and console version. What a mouthful. Of Final Fantasy VII. So let's say you don't want to play the game with any difficulty at all, and you just want to play through the story. You can have it so you will cause 9,999 damage for every time you hit an enemy. So if you just want to play through the story, maybe you know someone that's new to gaming and you just want to let them experience the story and some light combat, you can do that. There's lots of different like new health options coming. There's a upgrade system for the game itself when you do the skill tree stuff. And you know, I've been saying for a while that I think Square Enix, they're going to go all out with the marketing campaign. It looks like they're doing that. This is going to be a bloody big release. And I think, you know, again, I've gone from bashing Square Enix on a daily basis to praising them. I think Square Enix is doing this release right. They're talking about this every single day. They're making posts about it. There's multiple different kinds of trailers up. There's like 4 different versions of the last trailer on Xbox and Switch. So, hey, it's a win-win for everyone. Obviously, I sound excited because I've been waiting a long time for this. And I love the original. I absolutely do. Logan, do you think that maybe I'm just looking the wrong direction, but it does look like Nintendo, not Nintendo, Square Enix, they're going to do a full-on marketing campaign for this.
Yeah, I agree. I think Square has had enough of the failed to meet expectations trend that they kept having when, you know, shocker, games nobody heard about or knew were coming out did not sell well. And or they were exclusive to one platform or another for a limited time and also had terrible marketing and other stuff. So it seems like the new CEO, the new leadership team, we are fully multi platform going forward. We're going to be more consumer friendly. We're going to Square Enix has been hitting all the green check marks for me lately. They have been doing a great job. Like you, I used to give them a lot of grief because, frankly, I thought they were punking Xbox people for a long time. It felt like it, and now it's like they are one of the strongest proponents for cloud gaming and Xbox Play Anywhere, all this stuff. They're bringing their JRPGs, they're bringing older games, they're, all these things, and then price friendly. Just like it is night and day from what it was at the beginning or like at the Xbox One generation. Yeah, where they're like, Xbox, what's that? So just kudos to them, and hat tip. I'm very happy with Square right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever we heard that Square Enix is getting, doing the multi-platform thing, there was a lot of skepticism, understandably, but they actually delivering, and that's so good to see. So like, I'm smiling ear to ear. I'm like the bloody Joker here. Um, I think it's just nice to see, because like we're saying, AAA slop, publishers not living up to the expectations, what they promise us. Square Enix of all companies are delivering for Xbox. Bloody great to see. And it will be interesting to see what happens when it comes to like whenever Final Fantasy 17 happens or Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to be on everything. Um, that gameplay clip that came out like a year ago still looks amazing. But yeah, Square Enix, they're putting in all the effort, and I love to see it. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly. Tokyo Game Show is in 2 weeks, and I've been posting saying it's all going to be about Final Fantasy. Clearly, that's not the case now. Logan, what do you think's going to be there? Because outside of the Forza stuff, I think we could still see the Final Fantasy 9 remake announced there.
Yeah, if I were to hazard a guess based off of previous history, I'm a big history buff, so I like to go off patterns and data and stuff like that. If we go on previous stuff, generally a Final Fantasy type game, a Persona type game, could show up at one of these. Like whether it's a spin off, a remaster, remake, whatever. I if I don't see a to, um Forza Horizon 6 Tokyo with a skyline on the cover edition, I'm going to be severely disappointed. But in general, I think it will be more of the same with ports of some older Japanese games that haven't been on the platform yet, some new indies that look cute and fun, and maybe some new games from some partners that Xbox is in good graces with now. But I think it'll be a good show. They've been really hyping it, and lately they haven't been hyping their stuff up as much as they traditionally do.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're going all in on this one makes me think this is one that's going to have a little bit more meat to the bone on it. And especially with you've got this ROG Ally Xbox coming out, mid late October. You gotta show people the price at some point, right? I mean, you can't pre-order something and not have enough on your credit card or, enough in the bank to be able to get this sucker. So you gotta know what it's priced.
Yeah, I think that one of the big things is going to be the ROG price. Because like they kind of leaks, but it's not really confirmed. So the price for the regular ROG Ally is $5.99, and what was the other one, Logan? Was it $8.49?
I can't remember. I haven't seen the latest Best Buy leak that was put out there. Like I saw Jez or somebody said that that was like a tentative, not a final pricing,
Ah,
whatever.
okay.
So it might be better, it could be worse, or it could be same. I don't know. My guess is, you know what? I'll be naive and hopeful because I'm a eternal optimist. I think they make this more cost effective and pro consumer price than most people expect. I think they're willing to take a hit on this to get a mobile initiative and handheld experience out there as a
Yeah.
trial run to see how it goes.
Yeah, I see Nick said he heard it was also 800. I think so. Like, my brain's kind of skewed at the minute because like UK prices aren't really indicative of US prices. Because like in the UK, we get ripped off. We get ripped off. If anything has like anything electrical in it, we are ripped off to hell. It's sad, really, but we kind of just have to deal with it. It's like 599 and 800. I can believe that. I can really do. Um, you know the thing about it when you look at something like, let's say, the Switch, right? The reason the Switch can be cheaper is because that's partially subsidized by the games Nintendo makes, whereas then whereas Asus, they don't make video games. So it's like the device has to be priced, whatever it is, within reason. Like you're obviously gonna have some companies they'll charge, I'm trying not to swear, ridiculous prices. Like I think, was it the Legion Go that costs? There's a Legion Go or something that costs like over $1,000. Um, that's a bit much. Like nobody wants that, but you know, it's obviously Microsoft. They're going to use this as a test bed for their potential first party handheld. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time because if you go back 5 years ago, nobody was doing handhelds outside of Nintendo. And then the Steam Deck came along, changed everything. Then you have the ROG, you have multiple LG devices. Um, Pretty much everyone. I think there's like a GPD Win Gaming Edition. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'd be shocked if it isn't announced there because Japan, they are really big into handhelds over there. So we'll see what happens. So my prediction is, ROG Ally Price, Forza Horizon 6, and, some JRPG news. Like you said, Persona, right? We know Persona 4 Remake's coming, but we haven't really seen anything on it. And by the way, I think Persona 4 Remake is going to be bloody amazing. People haven't played Persona 4. Oof. I think that might be the best Persona game. Don't know if
You're
that's
not alone. A lot of people like Golden.
yeah, the tone, the characters, everything about it. I just think that's incredible. And I liked 5, I liked 3, but something about 4 just really sticks out. It's lighthearted and it has serious stories at the same time. I don't know. It's got a very cool vibe. And as someone that is getting a bit tiresome of some massively bloated open worlds, you don't really have a big open world in that game. You have the small town, you have the school, you have the house, and some other areas like the park. But outside of that, it's a very like small game. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And I personally think that Persona 6 is next year at their summer showcase because Persona 6 has been rumored for like 3 years now. And considering what Atlas is like, Atlas can make like 3 games at the same time without a sweat somehow. Like, don't know whatever magic they're using in the back, but yeah. It should be a good Tokyo Game Show, and there were some smaller games announced there last year, which I 100% think we're going to get release dates this year. One of which being Threads of Time. Threads of Time has this. And if people haven't seen it yet, just check out the trailer after the show. It's a 2.5D JRPG, and it's set across different centuries. So you have an era where it's like futuristic cyberpunk. Then you have steampunk, where there's like airships. And then there's like a medieval times. It looks really cool. Very unique JRPG. And yeah, I think that's it for Tokyo Game Show. Should be a very good week. And again, I am still shocked that Final Fantasy VII news wasn't kept for that. So who knows what's going to be there? Could be something really big, considering people from Microsoft keep saying you need to pay attention to this one. And let's say hypothetically it is Forza, right? We talked about this last week. they needed an Nissan Skyline on the cover. You just need to, right? You need Mount Fuji in the background. We've all seen that AI generated art for years of people wanting that to happen. I think it'll happen. You know what? Let's continue. We still have a bunch to talk about. Wait, HellDivers. So HellDivers is selling tremendously well on Xbox. In the UK, launch week it was number 1 and number 2, because you have the 2 different bundles, and clearly selling a lot of copies. A lot of people loving it, and I assume that they're going to put it on Switch by the end of the year. I don't see why you wouldn't. Well, anyway, they're clearly happy with this. I just checked the store today, by the way. Silksong is at number 2, and HellDivers is still at number 1. So, huge success. Sony's probably made a lot of money from this. There's been talk whether Sony's going to bring more games over, and, it makes some people feel annoyed. But, honestly, if you, look at the outside looking in, people keep saying it's going to be live service games, which you can say it might be the case. However, Sony doesn't really have any other live service games to bring over. The baseball game, MLB The Show, is already on Xbox. Marathon was already announced for Xbox, although we really don't know what's going to happen with Marathon. The open beta got moved to a different date. That could be up in the air. Bungie's been all over the place with that game. So, you've got to wonder, will they bring over single-player games? Because, and I've used this analogy before, and some people really hated this analogy because I'm not being 100% serious. It's called an analogy for a reason. I think we're going to see some older single-player Sony stuff, such as Days Gone. I think there's a huge market for that game where, look, if you're Sony and you have these big single-player games that came out years ago, you don't necessarily have a lot of new people buying those platforms specifically for those games. So that's just my train of thought. So I think we are generally going to see things like Days Gone, Spider-Man. It's on the tip of my tongue. Logan, what's the name of that Japanese game where there's no gravity?
Gravity Rush.
Gravity Rush.
So good.
I'm surprised I couldn't remember that, but Gravity Rush, right? Just games like that. People on PC have been begging for Bloodborne, right? How many times have we ever seen Bloodborne remastered trend, right? And
that's the biggest fumbled bag. I have no idea why that isn't on PC at this point.
Yeah, crazy. That would sell super well on PC, and it just seems like they're not doing anything with it. I think there's just a huge audience there waiting. By the way, when I talk about this stuff, I don't think, God of War, whatever the new one is, Part 3 is going to be. I don't think that's coming to Xbox or stuff like that. I don't think, the Wolverine game will, for at least years. But, Spider-Man, why not? The new Spider-Man, as far as I know, that Sony has to pay a 30% royalty, which is stupid. And that's literally hundreds of millions of dollars, probably. Or $100 million. They could literally make a crap ton of money by putting these games on Xbox. Nick wrote, I call it now, God of War 2018 comes to Xbox. I mean, look, that would be cool, right? Honestly, I would love to see the collection of the old games, 1 through Ascension plus the 2 PSP games. What were they called? Chains of Olympus and
Ghost of Sparta.
Ghost of Sparta, thank you. I would love to see them on Xbox. Maybe I do like old games too much because I think those old God of War games, they were super fun. And I would totally buy a collection. And yes, I think Gravity Rush 2 looks bloody amazing. There's something about that game. It is. And didn't that have some it wasn't a multiplayer mechanic, but it did have some sort of online connectivity, right?
Yeah, there were these quest things you could do, where somebody would set up something and then you solve it or figure it out and then you'd gain abilities, or there'd be community things where if enough people do this, then kind of like in HellDivers, you would get a boon or some new outfits or new gear or abilities, and like they had some really cool things like, oh, so, community player XYZ hit a marker at this place and they've given you a clue. If you can find it and then take a picture of it and upload it, then you get this. And they had a whole bunch of fun things to tie into just to the story and the gameplay as well. It was so underrated, and that game deserved so much better than it got.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think like they just have so many older titles to bring back, like Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man would sell millions on Xbox because, and I know you saw this as well, Logan. Like there was a DC superhero sale on Xbox about a month or two ago when Superman came out.
Hilarious.
It was hilarious. For people that don't know, this sale, you click on the tab on the Xbox store. There was uh, Batman Arkham Knight, Gotham Knights, and Lego Batman 3. Like, that was the sale. And it was just kind of sad. Like, the amount of superhero games that we have on Xbox, it's like a handful. It's only a few more on, like, two more on PlayStation, or three more if you include, like, VR stuff. But still, like, not VR, superhero games are just non-existent at the minute. And like, if you told Xbox fans, "Hey, we're going to put an open world Spider-Man game on your platform," I think they easily going to sell at least 5 million because there's nothing like that on the platform. Like we have Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, which was delisted years ago, but even that wasn't a very good game apparently. So, I do think we will see more. Like Nick said, like 2018 God of War, that would be bloody cool. There aren't really a lot of games like that on Xbox at the minute. The third person over the shoulder, like major AAA, budget games, like. But I think it's possible. People need to kind of get out of the whole like mindset, like, oh, it's the end of the world if this happens. Like, no, we're still here. you know, too many people take this stuff way too seriously. Like hell, I still think that, and this will never happen because it's Nintendo. Can you imagine how much money Nintendo would make if, let's say, they put an old Mario Kart game on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, like Mario Kart 8? That thing would be like
It
100.
would
Yeah,
sell Halo numbers.
yeah,
I'm not even kidding.
yeah. It would sell ridiculous numbers, and every single kart game maker, they always try and make their game feel as good as Mario Kart, but no game feels good as Mario Kart. Why is that? No one else's kart racer sells like Mario Kart because they don't play as good. It's like, that's just my take on it. I'm surprised like a red dot, like a laser, is not appearing on my head just because I'm talking about this when it comes to Nintendo. But we'll see what happens. I just think that Nintendo, obviously they're going to stay in their lane. They do experiment with some mobile stuff. Logan, can you remember there was a time when people thought Nintendo and Apple were going to make a console together? This was before the Switch was announced.
No, I don't remember that. I know the origin of the PlayStation 1 though, and how that became because, Nintendo and Sony were originally going to work together and then didn't. They had a falling out. And then Sony's like, well, fine. We'll make a disc-based console. And they did PS1, and then Nintendo did N64, and the rest is history. But I didn't remember the Nintendo and Apple, though. I remember that after the Wii U, a lot of people thought Nintendo was going to go third party
Oh yeah,
and, not make another console because the Wii U was such a colossal dud. But turns out, joke's on us because that ended up just being a prototype for the Switch, which became like the best selling or one of the three best selling consoles of all time. So.
yeah. I mean, when the Wii U came out, um, like there were a lot of people that were buying them in bulk because they thought the Wii situation was going to pop off again. So in the UK, people
Mhm.
had like piles of these Wii U's. They're going to sell like for £1,000 a piece. Didn't happen. And like it sold so bad that supermarkets at the time in the UK, they stopped selling like Wii U stuff altogether. Um, and then I think a lot of game stores just stopped selling them. Like that's how bad it was for Nintendo. And then they came back with the Switch, broke every record known to man. And like if you have over 120 million consoles out, you're doing pretty well. But yeah, like I mentioned the multi-platform stuff because if you go back this time last year, people were losing the marbles. There's people I used to speak to on a daily basis, right, in the community that I haven't spoke to since last January because they just fell off the earth, right? But now I think people are more what's the term, more accepting of it. Like you see the state of the industry. You have all these studios falling apart. You have Square Enix, you have Konami. They are committing to multi-platform releases because the truth is you're just going to make more money in a time where these games cost way too much to make. So, like, why not put your games on more stuff? Why not port your old games to different platforms? Like, look, the best time to launch a live service game in a multi-platform sense is the same day as everything else. But what did Sony do? They released their live service game, HellDivers 2, a year later, massive success. Right? So, like, if they can do that with single-player games that they've still got lying on a server somewhere, gathering dust, granted, not actually gathering dust because some people take my analogies way too seriously, yeah, they're going to make millions. Millions. I think, like, they could work out some deals. Like, hell, we get an ODST armor, or there's ODST armor in HellDivers, right? Do you know how many times people complain about skins in games, but the second they saw that ODST skin, they were like, "Oh, I need that," right? Because it was a really smart play by both Microsoft and Sony, and they got a lot of people's attention and a lot of people's money. Like Logan doesn't even play multiplayer games, and he likes HellDivers, right? Granted, it's a co-op game, but still,
exactly.
like it got your attention. It got a lot of people's attention. So like. Yeah, there's money to be had there, and if people think Sony's going to stop at HellDivers because they're not going to do multi-platform stuff, like no, like these companies they don't care about our feelings, they care about money, right? You drop Spider-Man on Xbox, and you can put Spider-Man on the Switch too as well. Bloody hell! Like honestly, if they do that this year or whatever, I think that Spider-Man port that's going to sell at least 10 million copies because we have nothing like that. It's like when Call of Duty, whenever that goes to the Switch, that's probably going to sell millions as well because as far as I know right now, there's one first-person military shooter on a Switch, and it's called Modern Combat 5. It's a port of a mobile game. As far as I know, that's it. But hey, that's just me. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting time for the gaming industry ahead. We were talking about AAA slop earlier on the show. The state of the industry is in a weird place because we're seeing so many studios shut down, games cancelled across the board. Like, Embracer doesn't get enough flack, honestly, for what they've done. Like, they've shut down more than 10 studios. The amount of games they've shut down.
It's an abomination.
Yeah, it's an abomination. And bear in mind, like 2 years ago, we were celebrating Embracer. Can you remember that? Like...
Yeah, we thought they pulled a fast one on Square Enix and got, Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal and that other studio, which is RIP, doesn't exist anymore, for pennies on the dollar, and that they were going to treat them right and do all this stuff. Little did we know.
Yeah. But, we'll see what happens. Logan, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before we close out the show?
Just on the multi-plat PlayStation thing, if I were to guess, I would say I think Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because the licensing fees on those were just crazy. And the development costs on those has been nuts. And who handled the original PC port for Spider-Man was Nexus. And they did a phenomenal job with that and mods support and all kinds of stuff. They did a fantastic job with the HellDivers 2 port to Xbox. And understand converting a PlayStation game to both PC and to Xbox. So to me, that one seems like a no-brainer if They want to be able to maximize an older game with appeal that would still be current and fully thriving. That one makes the most sense to me. Days Gone makes a ton of sense, like you said, because that game sold really well and people liked it. I have the collector's edition with the statue, the steelbooks, everything. Like I really enjoyed that game. And I'd pick it up if it came to Xbox. And you know, it that one's one of those crazy stories where Metacritic was given too much power
Oh yeah.
because some blog boys didn't like it enough, Sony didn't approve a second one, even though it sold really well, and a lot of people liked it and thought it was a good first entry for a series. And Bend wanted to continue to make it. They were told not to, basically. So, all in all, bad situation, but I think that one should come. Returnal makes sense to me. That one, I don't think it would do massive numbers, but I think it would. Well, it's not gonna hurt kind of title, and it's a shooter, has some rogue elements. It feels like it would fit on Xbox with sci-fi interest, like Helldivers 2. To me, I am in the camp that I just don't think Sony would do God of War and Last of Us, at least yet. Maybe I think those would be, the last frontier kind of for them to eventually they cross that road and they bring something like that over if they're fully committed. But I think those would be further down the pipeline. Could be totally wrong. Could be they see the money from Helldivers 2 and they're like, okay, all systems go, fire at will, put every single thing we got on every platform and get as much money as possible. Maybe that's what they do, but to me, I think Sony is enough of a snob when it comes to prestige and that kind of studio boutique aura that they kind of like to cover themselves in to where they might keep those for a while. But we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, Days Gone, like, zombie games in general do massive numbers. And I feel like we used to get, like, big zombie games way more often. It just seems like now we don't. Um, Maybe I'm delusional, I don't know, but it just feels like we used to get a big AAA zombie game, like every like couple of months, and now it just seems like maybe one a year, two a year. Like Days Gone would do massive numbers on Xbox, and you are right, them not doing a sequel because of a Metacritic score, like that's mind blowing. Like any other company, if they did a new IP that sold over 10 million copies, there would be a whole trilogy by now. You know, if Ubisoft, Microsoft, EA, anyone basically had that success with Days Gone, we would have had a whole franchise by now. Too much power is on Metacritic. People do predictions for Metacritic. People get excited about Metacritic scores. Like hell, didn't Obsidian not get their bonuses because of the new Vegas Metacritics?
1 point off, and
Like
they got held from a big, big bonus.
that's
And
crazy.
that led to bad blood between them and Bethesda for many years until the acquisitions, and then ice cooled, and things are good now. But yeah, 1 point off changed a huge ordeal.
Like that's just crazy. Like that doesn't make any sense. But I think that these companies they do learn, and hopefully Sony they do realize like they don't have to focus on Metacritic, right? It is nice to slap a fancy green number on the box, but look, as we were talking about earlier in the show, these double A games I talk about a lot, and the ones I keep talking about how people should buy them, they don't get amazing Metacritic scores. It's because not a lot of people review them, right? So like these games, they tend to not get super high scores, but if you play them, screw Metacritic, right? By the way, I have a critic, I have a critic review on Metacritic, which no one can longer read anymore because the website doesn't exist. But part of my review's still there, and even I feel bad about the score I gave a specific game. Right? It was a review for a game called Toby: The Secret Mine. It's basically a game that's kind of like Limbo, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. And I felt guilty about giving this game a 7 because I was like, is a 7 okay? Because in my head, a 7 is, it's good, you know? Like, a lot of people think 10's a masterpiece, 9 is great, 8 is good, 7's terrible. And I've always hated that frame of mind when it comes to like review scores. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why we don't see sequels to some games, because of stuff like that. And I think it's terrible. But yeah, and when it comes to Sony's older games, like Sony gets made fun of for remastering games, but they don't have backwards compatibility with the PS3. Not really. So like, wouldn't they make the most sense to bring back collections of stuff? So the Killzone trilogy or the Resistance trilogy. Like, you could put them on all consoles. Like, why not? Like, hell, can you imagine putting the Killzone trilogy on like a Switch 2 alone? That'd do amazing. I think there has been some rumblings, I don't necessarily believe it, that Horizon Forbidden West, or Horizon Zero Dawn, sorry, is coming to Xbox at some point. I mean, there's a huge open world market on Xbox for games like that. Like, hell, we were talking about Assassin's Creed before. No matter which Assassin's Creed it is, it does amazingly well because people like open world action games. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, everyone has been amazing once again in chat. If you go back 2 years ago, or even a year and a half ago, we had very specific adult-centric bots in chat all the time. As you can tell.
Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, we used to get them all the time, and now we don't get them anymore, thankfully, which is great. Logan, it's been great having you on the show once again. It's been a great week for topics. Look, we're not going to talk about politics or real world stuff on the show. It's a gaming channel. I want to keep it fun. I want to keep it lighthearted. Entertaining, because honestly, this world, this steaming piece of rock we all floating on in space, it can be terrible sometimes, and I want to keep it light. Anyway, we're back for a new episode next week. If plans work out that well, I should have a new video out on, let's see what the day is, on Thursday or Friday, depending on what's happening. But I think people really like this video. I've been working on it for a while. Now, for future videos and the podcast, there's this new feature available on YouTube, and it's completely free. So when a stream is ended, or if you have if a live stream's ended, I'm all over the place today, or if you see a video posted that day, you can do this thing called hype. So next to the chat or comment section, there'll be a little section that says hype. And basically, if you click that, you can hype up to 3 pieces of content a week. And that will basically help promote that person's content in the algorithm. It's a cool new feature. YouTube's experimenting with it. It's available in a bunch of countries. It's rolling out to even more soon. So if you really enjoyed the channel, liking does help. Subscribing is greatly appreciated. I have some really cool things for the channel planned, which I can't talk about because it's such a cool idea, and I think people love it. But liking, subscribing, greatly appreciated. The hype button, it's just new. Test it out. It's greatly appreciated. It helps smaller content creators get through the cracks and get more attention. Anyway, all that aside, hope everyone joins next week for a brand new show. And we already have a bunch of topics lined up for next week. It's going to be cool. Anyway, we'll catch everyone next week. Have a very good week. We're out, everyone. Peace. And we're done.